going to fill in. So, studio, if we can get started in the next minute or so. Everyone all ready? And we're going to follow the same run of show. So just fill in. Just attack it in my water bottle. No. You want to touch it? I don't care. It's up to you. All right, is studio ready? Ken? They're not replying. Slack.
Black.
Okay.
Hey everybody, my name is Holly Eskridge. I'm an assistant director in our economic development department. Thanks so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, Mayor Lyles had a last minute scheduling conflict, so I am going to do my best to fill in her absence. Our goal in each of these webinars is to connect our small business community to the resources and information they so greatly need at this time. One of the top questions that we receive is around financial resources. So today we're hosting a panel on the fundamentals of legal and financial protection for small businesses. So I'm going to go over our panelists and then we'll get started. First, we have Larry Shaheen. He is an attorney with the Macintosh law firm. He specializes in commercial real estate, business, and corporate law. You may have seen him recently on a number of webinars and media interviews where he helps advise on the many aspects of the new SBA loans tied to COVID-19 relief. Kate Maynard is a partner with the law firm of Robinson Bradshaw. She litigates complex commercial disputes and advises clients on data privacy and cybersecurity issues. Kate serves as general counsel of Robinson Bradshaw. In that role, she has been responsible for guiding the firm's response to the coronavirus pandemic and is now working on the firm's preparations to reopen the workplace for their nearly 240 employees in Charlotte, Chapel Hill, and Rock Hill. Carolina Aponte is the CEO of CAJA Holdings, a full-service accounting and bookkeeping firm with over 20 years of helping clients, both large and small. Her responsibilities include business development, client services, consulting, and analysis. She is also president-elect for the National Association of Women Business Owners of Charlotte and is a Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Growth Accelerator alumni. Claudie Johnson is the City of Charlotte executive at Self-Help Credit Union, whose mission is to create and protect ownership and the economic opportunity for all. Self-Help provides responsible financial services, lending to small businesses and nonprofits, developing real estate, and promoting fair and financial practices. Manuel Rey is a regional banking executive for Fifth Third Bank. In this role, he is responsible for leading the multicultural banking strategy and its execution. He also serves as a director for the private bank in the Mid-Atlantic region with a focus on strategic business development and multicultural competency. He also works to create investment opportunities for corporate, middle market, multicultural, and minority-owned businesses through market knowledge and connectivity. And then lastly, Beth Hoving is Senior Vice President and Mid-Atlantic Region Executive for Small Business at Bank of America. Having focused much of her career on the small business industry, she leads a team of small business banking managers covering the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. Beth also serves as Bank of America ambassador and board member for the Charlotte chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for joining us, our panelists, and those of you who are watching today. This is going to be an awesome discussion, I think something very valuable to our small business community. At the end of some of these initial questions, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up to those viewing and take questions from the audience. So Larry, I'm going to start with you. So what about when we look at the state and local level, what policies or programs are most popular?
Well, what we've seen most popular is the Triple P program. That has been the #1 federal program that has been very popular. There's also been some programs coming down from the Federal Reserve that's more popular among large businesses, but what we've seen for the small businesses is that the EIDL, which is the economic injury disaster loan that's surrounding the circumstances here with COVID, has been probably your second most popular, but that has been a little bit slow. But I have to tell you, and I'm going to brag on the city of Charlotte here for a minute, and if the mayor was here, I would do that. I think the most popular two local programs that are going to be rolled out here, you've got your micro business relief that Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte have come up with, which I think has been very useful for businesses that have less than 5 employees. You've got your COVID-19 response fund for your nonprofits, which we just saw another doubling of money from Wells Fargo to $50 million. And Bank of America has, and all of our corporate partners have been wonderful with that, giving to the Foundation for the Carolinas. And then we've also seen the Mecklenburg County Business Stabilization Loan Program, which has been put into place by Mecklenburg County. So all of these programs for businesses have been very useful and very helpful. And the goal for the Triple P and the EIDL programs were to keep folks off unemployment. A lot of folks think that are asking questions about, well, why are we spending money on middle market companies? Why are we getting money to small businesses? Well, the way that the loans are structured is with 75% of the money being spent on payroll and with limited funds being available in the unemployment reserves, it's been very helpful for these businesses to be able to pay these folks through this process and keep them on employment so that we could turn the light back on whenever North Carolina moves to a full reopening. So, those programs have been very good. There have been a lot of other reforms that have been made. North Carolina just recently passed 2 great COVID relief bills. One of those is the $125 million for the Golden Leaf Fund. That opportunity is a very good opportunity. Hospitality and tourism has had about $5 million made available to them through that relief fund, but there is also a restaurant workers relief fund that is being managed through the North Carolina Restaurant and Tourism Association, and then you've got your rapid recovery loans, which are being done through North Carolina as well. So there is a plethora of options for folks to be able to find some relief. And this is a great panel you guys put together today, and I look forward to hearing about it. And if you're a small business and you want to survive, there's a lot of opportunity.
Thanks so much, Larry. That's awesome information, and we'll make sure we pass along your thanks and gratitude to the mayor and city council. So next I'll go to Kate Maynard with Robinson Bradshaw. Kate, what is the biggest legal issue that businesses are facing with reopening? Yeah, I might
make sure I'm off mute. The biggest challenge that many of our employers are facing is the nuts and bolts of bringing employees back into the workplace. Of course, every small business is different and has unique issues based on the nature of that business, whether how many employees you have, the nature of their job functions, the nature of the physical space you work in. But all of those factor into the legal issues that we have to deal with related to our employees and the obligations that already exist for employers under state and federal law, and how those obligations have to be applied and navigated in this world with COVID-19. Namely, is the obligation to provide a safe workplace to your employees. What does that mean? That's going to differ based on the nature of your business and your workplace. We have laws, of course, in place that prohibit discrimination based on disability, age, and other bases, and those also require confidentiality of health information. So employers are having to wrestle with how to balance the public health needs and the safety of their employees with the obligations of non-discrimination and confidentiality. Other issues that employers are looking at are around how to properly apply the leave laws. If they apply for some of the smallest businesses, they may not apply, but for others, Family Medical Leave Act and the new Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which allow for paid leave, are things that you have to make sure you know how to apply those and don't inadvertently create some legal obligations for yourself. And then the nuts and bolts of bringing people back, as we are all under phase 2 order from North Carolina, is making sure every employer understands what is allowed in phase 2 and what is required by phase 2. I want to make sure, to direct people to the North Carolina DHHS website that has not only the executive orders, but some really well done guidance for employers. And it breaks out different types of businesses. There's some general business guidance, but also specific guidance for restaurants and other types of businesses that have unique circumstances. And that DHHS guidance really provides a checklist or a roadmap for compliance with the state phase 2 order, and will help with best practices, but also shows where there are some requirements. And I just will highlight that there are some things that some types of businesses are required to do that others aren't. A retail establishment is going to have different obligations than a small office professional services firm. The other big legal issue that's out there looming, and unfortunately we don't have an answer for it, is what potential risks and liabilities exist? Are we going to see an onslaught of litigation around coronavirus exposure, either cases brought by employees against employers or by customers and clients against businesses with allegations that the virus was contracted at a business or through services offered by a business? And unfortunately, there's not an answer to that. There are a lot of unknowns right now. That is the subject of debate at the federal level in Congress. What I can say is that the following the state guidance, the CDC guidance and the state guidance, while it may not be a guarantee against someone filing claims against you down the road, if you have followed that state guidance and the CDC guidance and kept good records around what you did and the decisions you made, that should put you in a very reasonable position and a favorable position in the future. So I would suggest that to navigate these legal issues, really relying on the guidance that's available both on the CDC's website and the DHHS website, that guidance for businesses and employers is a critical step for employers as they try to bring their folks back into the workplace and make good decisions along the way. And I will say our firm, RobinsonBradshaw.com, we do have a coronavirus resource center with a few articles that may be of interest as well.
That's amazing information. I know we work with small business owners and then our partners that work with small business owners. I know just sort of there's always some anxiety around sort of these legal questions, but I know with in this time, I think that anxiety is just even heightened. So that was really great information, and I think you broke that down in a very simple, digestible way. That's valuable to small business owners, so thank you for doing that. So Carolina Aponte, I would like to talk to you next. We hear a lot about the PPP and the EIDL loans when advisors talk about the CARES Act. But what are some of the relief mechanisms it offers when it comes to small businesses and their taxes?
First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And it is Carolina in Spanish, even though it's spelled just like the name of the state. Yes, there's a lot of questions regarding the PPP loan and the EIDL. If you were one of the lucky businesses to receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan as provided by the CARES Act, I would say, kudos to you. Just make sure that you are in contact with the lender because they will be the ones reviewing the documentation that is required to determine forgiveness of the funds, 75% towards payroll at least, and 25% for your rent, utilities, interest payments, and so forth. Some of the relief that are available is that the amount that you received under the PPP loan is not going to be considered income for your business. So in that regard, that assistance will lower your gross income for the year 2020. But you do have to be in contact with your accountant and to make sure that things are recorded correctly on your books, because the expenses, which are typically deductible, which are your payroll expenses, rent and utilities, will not be considered according to the IRS as deductible expenses, because then that's double dipping in the tax world, right? So you're not going to claim it as income, but then you can also not just claim it as expenses, because then double dipping happens. So those are some of the provisions. And you also have to consider at the state level what is going to be deductible or not at the time of taxation. So one of the things that we tell our clients is just make sure that you're meeting with your accountant via Zoom, via the phone, so that you stay safe, but that you are starting to record transactions in the right manner so that people are able to create the reports necessary for forgiveness of the loan, and also for, when tax season comes around next year. One of the things that I also want to mention is that, even though Congress intended for the PPP to be fully non-taxable, there is a tax code in place, and you have to be aware of what you can and cannot deduct from your business. There is a provision under the CARES Act that some of the payroll taxes can be you can put a pause on the payment of those taxes. Doesn't mean that you don't have to pay it, but you can pause it while the crisis is going on so that you can maintain the cash flow for your business. So that's another consideration under the CARES Act. As we tell all of our clients, this is the right time for you to sit down your cash flow to make sure that you understand your numbers in a way that allows you to plan for the stability of your continuity of the business. And as the other panelists have mentioned, there are other resources besides the PPP loan and the EIDL loan. So it is good to be in touch with all of the resources available in the city so that you are able to have cash influx for your company and continue to be in operation.
Great. So we were having some breakup there. I just want to make sure are you finished, Carolina? I'm not interrupting you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All this technology in the world of doing things digitally. So
yes.
That's great information. I know, this is also another area that I know we work with small businesses and our partners work with small businesses. I know the tax side of things is always a major anxiety producer, and I think this is fantastic information for small businesses to really understand what this means in this world of receiving CARES Act funding. So thank you very much. And for the correction on your name. My apologies.
That's okay.
So next I will go to Claudie Johnson with Self-Help Credit Union. So Claudie, question, what has Self-Help seen over the last few months as it relates to the changing needs in the small business community?
Thanks, Holly. And it's good to be here. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much. I don't know if it's unique to Self-Help in terms of what we've seen, but obviously from a community standpoint, global, we've seen a lot of small businesses hurting, right, with this change of life situation, in all the uncertainty that surrounds and is abound. As Larry mentioned, there's tremendous resources that are available. So what we've done from an institution standpoint, because our focus has been on small businesses, through the years and lending money, even smaller dollar amounts, but we've pivoted and focused on some of those resources that are out there. Think about the PPP again that Larry and Carolina has mentioned in terms of the tax aspect, of it, where those monies could be forgivable. So we focused on those loans with our small businesses. We felt that was the right approach to really serve our mission and assist our small businesses is utilizing those programs. So with round two, through round two, we've done over 1,200 loans, over $160 million in loan amounts, and then from our data, that saved about 18,000 jobs. So felt really good about being able to be there for our small businesses, which as everyone knows, they are the backbone of our economy here in the U.S. So we wanted to be a part of that. What we've also seen is with small businesses and some of those things that I know I've been in the business for a while, and we always had talked about, growing up early on from some of my mentors, is the need for small businesses to have, a good attorney on their team, a good accountant like a Carolina on their team, and a good banker. So we've seen where relationships, matter. Even more so in these crisis, situations. So trying to communicate that and become more of an advisor, for our small businesses as opposed to just a lender. So we've pivoted and have had some of those important conversations, making sure that they are aware of the resources. I love, and as Larry said, I'll put a plug into the city as well. I love what they've done, with, trying to assist. We're part of the Carolina the Charlotte Business Resource Center. You go to their website, just great information that's out there about all these resources, that exist. Kate mentioned what's available, there at her firm. So I love how, businesses have a response, to this COVID-19 and are making sure that everyone is aware of all those resources, that exist out there.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. And we will always take the plug for charlottebusinessresources.com. So you're an amazing partner. We really appreciate that. Next, Manuel Rey with Fifth Third Bank. Good afternoon, Manuel. So my question to you is, how are the services you offer for small businesses changing with the challenges of COVID?
Well, I think they were already changing, and now they're accelerating, and they will continue changing. I don't see this to stop in the short term. I think banks are going to have to be very nimble going forward. As you know, the banking industry is a very regulated industry. We are adding more regulations around health for employees and for the clients that are coming into the bank where they are banking with the institutions. So we're going to have to put all of those together, like Kate mentioned, to be, I'm going to quote, legally safe, or at least have a leverage on the legal side for potential lawsuits and so forth. And that will be on our side as long as we're following that regulation. But to be honest, the 3-4 major changes that I've seen coming, and they were happening, again, it's just accelerating, was the delivery channel. If you think through these, we have, for example, this is an example, the financial centers to deliver our services and products. And, their financial centers are going to have a role. Some people like to go to the financial centers following the guidelines that we have established, but other people might not feel comfortable going to the financial centers, and they will prefer to use the online delivery channel. So we're going to have to have a very strong online IT strategy to be able to sustain not only clients but also employees. If you remember before the pandemic, we had 2,000 employees working from home. After the pandemic, we had 22,000. So I'm talking about the bandwidth and capabilities to hold the traffic. And I'm not an expert by no means in IT, and I'm not pretending, but it is difficult. So we're going to have to do, or banks were doing major investments on that one. And again, you have the financial centers, you have the online banking, and then still you might have clients just want to do it on the phone, right? They don't want to go to a branch. They don't have, from not having Wi-Fi at home to not knowing how to use online, they might want to use phone or any other venue. So that's one. The delivery channels for me, I think, is going to be keep changing, and we're going to have all of them to have a more broader approach to the client. The second, if you think about what we were talking, Carolina mentioned it, Claudie too, as well as Larry, one of the things that we're going to have to see is a company that was performing before the pandemic financially, was a great company, and then with the pandemic, they just, have to spend all their cash flows and so forth. So the question is, how are we going to look at these companies going forward? How are we going to do the underwriting of these companies? That we're going to take the last 3 months, which will be difficult to look at it because everybody is, with exceptions, struggling through these times. So that's something that we're going to have to change and analyze. How do we look at companies and how we measure the risk for these companies during and after the pandemic. The third one, I mentioned it a little bit, is the legal issues that we're going to have forward, and the exposure that we want to have, and the risk that we want to tolerate during the pandemic. And the last one, which I think is, to be honest, the most important, is the human capital, right? The training for employees, the how to look at the client now. A long time ago, I heard on a panel, a banker said that loans were a commodity and almost passed out. And this is an example. Right now, it's going to have to be very tailored to each client. We're going to have to look at each company on specific things, and then come up with tailored solutions for the company or for the individual. So all this is going to have to be a major investment in our employees, in our technology, and so forth. So to me, those are the four major challenges and changes that we have been experiencing, and I think we're going to continue to experience. And just to keep with these changes, we're going to have to be nimble. It's not going to one solution fits all. I think it's going to be keep working as we go. If I would know we're going to be ending at the end of the pandemic, at the end of the year, or in 2021, maybe come with a solution. But this is something that is going to continue to change for everybody. We need to take it as it goes. So that's what we're looking for to do.
Excellent. I think that's amazing perspective, and you really think about a mid-sized bank like Fifth Third, really having to make those kind of changes and pivots in your operations, and from a lending institution standpoint, it's where everybody is right now. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And then Beth, Hoving with Bank of America. The question for you is, Bank of America made the news last week by becoming the first U.S. bank to issue a $1 billion corporate social bond for COVID-19 relief efforts. What are some of the programs you currently have that are targeting small business relief in particular?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for recognizing that with the bond. We were very proud. It's actually the 7th environmental, social, and governance themed bond that we've issued since 2013. And the proceeds of this one will go specifically to healthcare industry lending. So it's a great option for our investors. But as you pointed out, specific to small business owners, there's a couple of things that we've been doing. The first is our continued support of community development financial institutions, or CDFIs. So we've pledged $250 million and an additional $10 million in philanthropic grants. And that specifically goes to help low and moderate income communities. As far as lending, we've had several panel members, and Larry and Carolina specifically talked about the PPP loans. We've been one of the top lenders of PPP loans, so we've funded over 300,000 loans nationwide. And specific to North Carolina, $305 million at last count had already gone to small business owners in North Carolina. About 98% of what Bank of America has been able to fund has been to companies with a small number of employees. So I know that's been in the news a lot, so I wanted to point out that's been a huge effort for us, as well as a lot of financial institutions, to be nimble, to use Manuel's word, and respond to that quickly. For small business and consumer clients that are experiencing financial hardship, we've also been able to offer payment deferral options. So whether that's a credit card payment or principal and interest related to some kind of a business or mortgage loan, or even merchant services fees, we're able to, when clients reach out to us, help them put a deferment plan in place during this time of hardship. And then finally, this was mentioned by a couple of panel members as well, but just that access to resources and expertise, I think, is the number one thing that we've heard from our small business clients. So an example is we have a small business community website that's been up and running for a long time. It's got great articles and videos and things for small business owners to access, but they can also chat with each other. And we've seen a lot of increased activity of small business owners throwing questions out and helping and assisting each other, which is such a great part of the small business community. We do have a lot of digital capabilities that, again, were already accessible to our clients, but we've seen a big increase where instead of going to the financial center, they want to leverage our digital resources and banking solutions and tools. And then finally, just talking to a person. So whether that is physically walking into a financial center, which the majority of our centers have remained open, or setting an appointment, or just picking up the phone and calling their banker. Claudie mentioned, it's important to have a banker that you can talk to. A lot of small business owners just have questions during this time period. And so having a conversation, whether it's, should I take this PPP loan or not? Or I'm starting to plan for opening my business back up. What does that mean? And how do I prepare for potentially access to capital that I might need as I bring back employees or put some of these new regulations in place that Kate talked about? What does that mean for the financials of my business, and getting that kind of advice? So those are the biggest things that we've seen and been able to do to support the small business community.
Yeah, that sort of personal touch that I think small businesses need right now, just that sort of human connection, even if it's digitally or over the phone, I think is so critically important. And I think that's awesome. I didn't realize there was that chat feature where small businesses could talk together on that website. So that's pretty incredible, and I'm sure incredibly valuable. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So now we're going to go to questions from the viewers for this webinar. We actually received several so far, so I'm just going to hop right into them. What I will say is, please feel free. I'm going to ask the person that it's directed at, but if there's somebody else on the panel who feels like they have something to contribute to it, please, by all means, do. So I'm going to start. This is for Kate. What are some of the liability risks with opening back up? You mentioned those kind of sort of on a higher level, but are there any specifics that you can give us?
I think what's on most people's mind will be liability concerns about employees and having a safe workplace for employees. And as I mentioned, it's going to differ based on the nature of your business and your workplace and what you do. And it may be a time when it's good to have that relationship with a lawyer and contact and talk through the concerns with someone who knows the ins and outs of your business. But in the event an employee contracts COVID-19 at work and is able to show that is most likely going to be a workers' compensation type claim. Then, as I mentioned, it's unknown of other types of liabilities, the tort type liabilities of either customers or employees making claims about contracting the virus at work. Those seem to be the concerns that are on front of people's minds, the health and safety of customers and employees.
Real quick, Holly, if you don't mind, I'm going to make sure that there's a piece of legislation that was in Senate Bill 704 that was passed just recently. It's in section 4.14. It actually provided a time-limited civil liability immunity to essential businesses for injuries or death resulting from customers or employees contracting COVID-19 at the business. The immunity is also extended to emergency response entities with regard to customers that do business with the entity being injured as a result of COVID-19. And there is an exception in there for gross negligence, reckless misconduct, or intentional infliction of harm. What we've been advising our folks to do is make sure that they get a waiver for every piece of activity that goes on within their business. And then we are also advising most of our businesses to make sure that they are, if you are, like, say, for example, a high-risk business, or you're a business where you're doing healthcare, there's also another piece within that piece of legislation which gave healthcare liability protection for emergency or disaster treatment. Now, that does include a lot of these end-of-life care facilities and other of those facilities. So the North Carolina General Assembly actually did amazing work to help make sure that that situation was done. They've talked about it at the national level. They've not done anything at it yet. North Carolina was very proactive. It's important to note that this was bipartisan. Every single member of the General Assembly voted for it. So it's going to be heavily supported. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pushback on that. But the most important issue is going to be if you are deemed non-essential. And that's going to be the question within the law. If you are essential, you are covered. If you are not essential, there's a possibility that you aren't covered. And if you are not covered as a non-essential business, then you are going to have to take much stronger measures to make sure that you are protected from liability. And this is the lawyer, and I don't want to give away business, but the lawyer is telling people, go talk to your insurance broker and go see if you can get an umbrella policy or something to cover the customers. And then think about, like Kate said very wisely, Kate said, for employees, it would be a workman's comp issue. And a lot of those issues were covered in the Families First Act as well, in terms of what you're going to have to do for those folks for paid leave, and then the potential liability on that will only extend if they have long-term impacts after the actual illness.
Excellent. Thank you so much to both of you. That was great information, is great information. My next question is for Claudie. What crisis management skills and tactics are most useful for small businesses to navigate financial stress right now?
When you mention the word stress, Holly, it takes me to self-care, and talking to some of the small businesses that I've had conversations with, is just making sure that they are working and thinking about themselves, first. It reminds me, I'm a financial planner, so from a financial planning perspective, we always talk, to folks, about, making sure you're reminding them about the safety brief that they give you on the airlines, to make sure that you put your mask on first before helping others. So when I think about, crisis management, make sure that you're doing those things, that to take care of yourself, that give you joy, so that then you can, attack, whatever's going on in your business, from there. I mentioned before the need for, a team, so you surround yourself, with the team. A lot of small businesses have done a great job of creating, their business. So now it's important, again, that they create a team around them to help them with things that they may not be familiar with. Another plug for a resource, the Small Business Center here in Charlotte, I know has created this rebound program where they're giving, businesses an opportunity to talk with MBA, recently graduate students with an MBA, to talk through different crisis management situations, big picture type things that you as a small business owner, you're focused on, your product and your employees. So having that, resource that's available to you, I think is important. But I can't overemphasize, the need for self-care.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Hey,
go ahead, please.
It's Beth. Sorry, Holly. I just wanted to chime in real quick, too. I think from a crisis management perspective, taking some time to reflect on everything we've learned from this experience. I know it's a little bit difficult right now while we're still in the middle of it, but I know, from a financial product perspective, a lot of times we'll talk to small business owners about putting a line of credit in place when you don't feel like you need it, so that should something unforeseen happen, you have that access to capital already in place. And clearly none of us could have foreseen something of this magnitude, but I think it was a wake-up call for whether it's a line of credit or ensuring you have a great CPA like Carolina or a payroll provider or those that team like Claudie is referring to in place. If you didn't have one in place now, you're learning from that. Well, when things get back to a new normal, go ahead and get those things in place so that you're prepared for whatever may come in the future.
Beth, to your point, one of the things, again, that I've always heard, earlier in my career is that the time, to get a loan is when you don't need a loan, so that you have that, you can establish that relationship. So that.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump into this one as well, because I do think, just based on our experience with our client base and with the people that we have relationships with in business during the crisis, it has just come forward the need for planning, the need for having sort of a lot of those things that you don't think about or that you put in the back burner to start really thinking about it. And when you do and you start putting those plans in motion, your stress level starts going down. So having the team of people to support you, having resources available at your hands, also having a networking group that can support you and sort of direct you towards the people that you can work with and that you can get answers from is also critical. So I know that a lot of the networking groups, including NABO, that we're a part, both Beth and I are part of, the National Association of Women Business Owners, we've pivoted into creating a lot of online resources and meetings online so that business owners are not alone. And that helps lower the stress level.
That's all fantastic information. I know NAVO has done an amazing job. I know you're also one of our fantastic partners on Charlotte Business Resources, and so thank you for doing that for our small business community. Let's go. I'm going to direct this one at Manuel, but feel free, anybody else, to chime in. I think this is actually a great question, and I think on the minds of several business owners. So the question is, for businesses that had plans to expand prior to COVID-19, should they move forward with these plans or wait until the economy is more stable?
That's a great question, and today I just came out of a capital markets call at 8 o'clock, so I got very fresh information. We're looking at a lot of activity in the capital markets segment, mainly in investment banking. So today is a great opportunity, actually, to be looking for that additional funds or money to expand or to grow or to have a planning about what to do with your business. You can see it from the private equity side or the venture capital side too. There is a lot of cash parked. So if you're willing as a business to have from a minority owner to equity to any structure, this is a good timing. I wouldn't be waiting for it. Again, I mentioned in the beginning that we are looking, and the same as the private equity side or the venture capital side, they're looking at companies that they just need some cash flow. They were very good companies. They are very good companies that due to the pandemic, they're having some cash flow shortages.
Which, by the way, you still have time to apply for the PPP loan. The EIDL loan is not available anymore. It is only available for it escapes my mind, but it's a segment of agriculture. So the EIDL loan it's been stopped and it's only available to agricultural, but the PPP loan is still available. And also you have the other resources from the city of Charlotte and other institutions that are providing loans and grants. If you don't have any of those things, what you need to do is you need to sit down and you need to take a look at what your current cash flow situation is. How much money do you have coming in? Do you have accounts receivable? And what are your payables? What are the most imminent bills that you have to pay, and which ones can you hold on to until your cash flow starts coming in? So this is the time to really look at the numbers with a magnifying glass or to make sure that you are looking at everything that's supposed to be coming and everything that's supposed to be going out, so that you can start making strategic decisions as to what can you hold off and what is a priority. If you're unsure how to do this and you don't have an accountant on hand, this is the time for you to go to the business resources and start looking up for professionals who can help you and guide you through the process and make sure that you have current accounting records to start making those plans. So the one thing that I would say is don't be afraid. The worst thing that you can do is just ignore the situation. You just have to, face it and look for help, even if it's just to discuss what you have at hand, so that other ideas can come forward to help you make decisions in regards to your cash flow, so that you can maintain your business afloat while this is going on.
I think that last piece there is so important, tackle that fear, get in there, do it, try. And there are so many amazing resources. And I think what you just said there is a great start for our small businesses.
Holly?
Oh, please, yes.
Yeah, if I can add, to Carolina's point, this is not the time to put your head in the sand, because you do have those resources that are available. Beth mentioned what her organization is doing in regards to to loan modifications, things of that nature. Those businesses who have a storefront or a retail space, going to their landlords and things like that and asking for some level of modification, things of that nature. I think it's good, but as a financial planner, this is absolutely the time to see and determine who's in your pocket and to see what expenses you can cut as you move forward. And then just a shameless plug in regards to the PPP, as Carolina mentioned, there are still resources, funds available, within that second round of monies that was approved. We as an organization, we're still aggressively, still pushing out, those loans, and now are really focusing on, the independent contractors, the sole proprietors that were left out, and left out for several reasons. We talked, early on about the lack of relationships, of having a CPA or something like that, where for sole proprietors as well as independent contractors, they have to have a Schedule C, in order to determine, what amount of money that they can qualify for. And for some, small business owners, they may not have, that resource, that they have a bookkeeper, but they might have that CPA, so they're kind of slow. So, so they've heard, some of the rumors that, hey, I don't qualify, but in fact you do, that here's the time that, again, to reach out to some organizations to maybe assist you, with, your tax returns. And then we are more than happy, to assist you with obtaining a PPP loan. So you can just go to selfhelp.org, and we have a link, there where the team that we put together that's focused on that, can assist you accordingly.
I think that's fantastic, and you're right. Just making sure you have the correct information, I think, is really a huge part of this small businesses mitigating and working through COVID-19. So thank you for that. My next question is for Beth. If a business owner is worried about their credit with juggling the challenges of COVID, what are some tools they can use to mitigate their concerns?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I hate to keep repeating ourselves, but I think having the access to people is one of the biggest things you can do to ask for advice, because there are so many tools and resources out there, and it's good to be able to check in with what makes the most sense for your particular business. So, when Manuel was talking about the growth opportunities that are out there, it relates to this as well, because every business and every industry is going to be different. Some industries are thriving right now, and some are really struggling, and some are doing okay now, but depending on what happens next with the economy, there could be some additional challenges. So talking to someone who can give you the right advice on what to do next, and is it the right time to be taking out a loan, or is that just going to put more pressure on your business long term, or are you even in a position to be able to take out a loan? As some of my fellow panel members have said, if business has been tough the last couple of months, that could be a challenge when trying to get traditional lending. But whether it's, with Claudie and self-help, self-credit unions, other CDFIs that I mentioned before, there are other non-traditional lenders who may be able to provide access to capital, or even looking at something like a credit card that, we think of as more of a purchasing tool, but depending on what your business needs are, that may be a good option for you as well. And then the answer may come back as, you just need to sit tight for a little bit. This is not the time for your business to be taking on additional debt or additional loans or anything like that. Let's talk about things Carolina said, which how can we pull back on some expenses, or how can we more tightly manage our necessary cash flow in the short run, and then put some plans in place for the long run.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's really good information. So I think we have time for one more question, and I'm going to start with you, Larry, and Kate, if you'd like to chime in too. But the question that came in from a small business owner is, what questions can we, meaning we as small business owners, ask employees about their health status?
That's a really complicated question. You want to go ahead and talk about what you guys have done at Robinson, and then because I think you guys are probably more up to date on best practices, but I can tell you what we've done here.
Yeah, sure. So there is some guidance from the federal government that says during this time of pandemic, employers can ask health screening questions about symptoms. Health screening is symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, some of those, what we know now are the COVID-19 health symptoms. Other screening questions that employers can and should ask about would be about travel or other potential exposure. The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, in their guidance, has a link to a document, which is a daily health screening form. There's an English version and a Spanish version to use with that they recommend to use with employees, and that would be a basis, I think, to work on. You're juggling the public health crisis that we're in with employee privacy, and you have to be very mindful of that and protect the confidentiality of those responses that you receive. But you can, under what the guidance we're getting from the federal government, ask those questions about symptoms when people come in each day. The state guidance says that some businesses and employers must ask that. I know retailers and I think restaurants, but look at your guidance to see if you're only recommended to do the daily screening or required to do the daily screening. So those are things you ask. You should not be asking, as a general rule, again, this is complicated, but general rule, you should not be asking employees if they have an underlying health condition that puts them at a higher risk for COVID. If someone self-discloses that to you, then you can help them take the safest precautions that you can for them, because we know that there is a group of our population who's at higher risk. But you should not be directly asking people if they are at higher risk. And if they share with you that you are, again, that's health information that you need to retain as confidential. Larry, any other points on that?
Yeah, one more thing. You did it. That's a great job, Kate. I mean, that was very, very thorough, and it's clear that you guys are up to date on that. So folks, go to Kate if you need something on that. Don't come to us. But but no, for what we've done here, what we've been advising businesses to do, follow all the guidelines that you're getting, but not just making sure that you manage the privacy of all of this medical information, but you're also going to want to deal with it from an employee morale perspective. You're going to want to keep private if someone is sick. You're going to want to manage rumors. You're going to want to make sure that there's not a lot of, oh, well, this person is here, this person is there. We got a call, and I will use this as a hypothetical. Hypothetically, employer calls, says, one of my employees went to a rally. Do I have to quarantine him for 14 days? And the question was, well, no, but you need to make sure that if he or she is showing signs of symptoms, and if he or she does not, needs to answer the health screening questions, that you need to be on top of it. So again, like emphasizing what Kate said, that balance is so important, making sure that you are balancing the privacy of the individual with the collective desire for health among the entirety of your employee base. It's very sensitive. It requires a lot of patience. We have a saint here, Shannon Macintosh at the Macintosh Law Firm, who is in charge of all of that. She does a great job. But if you have questions specifically about that, you're going to want to talk to your attorney. Again, good plug for Kate and Robinson. I know a lot of good folks over there at that firm. But you're definitely going to want to make sure to consult your HR specialist and tell your HR specialist that if you don't have one, you can go to a payroll expert or attorney. But you're going to want to make sure that that's what you're doing, is staying up to date and balancing the needs of both the individual and the group.
And for one more point on that, I know we're running out. The state guidance does also say employers should have a plan in place in the event employee shows symptoms at work. And if you look at the guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services, it talks about what to do what you need to think about if an employee shows symptoms at work, or if an employee calls and says, I've been at work, but now I know I'm sick, and how you must notify other employees what you can say and what you can't. So I would send you that. And Larry made a very good point. All of these, putting aside the legal issues, keeping the morale and the relationships among your employees and that human element is so important right now, and takes the good judgment, and keeping those relationships strong will of course serve every business in the long run.
So this has been incredible information. Thank you so much for answering that question so thoroughly. I think we ended on exactly a place that I think all of our small business owners wanted to hear about. Thank you for this panel. It was extensive. It was thorough. To me, it gave all the information, the beginnings of the information that our small businesses are asking for. And we value each of you for spending the time with us today. So thank you so much. So we're going to close out for today. Next week, we'll be back at 1 o'clock. And in follow-up to this fabulous panel, we're actually going to have a session on business resiliency and continuity planning that will be incredibly interesting. So please join us next week, 1 p.m. on Tuesday. And thanks, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you.